we got separated, and he's chasing one guy, I'm chasing another guy. They split, and I tackle mine. He's calling me on the back channel. He's like, "Where you at?" I said, "Man, I have no idea. I'm gonna drag this guy to the street corner and read the street sign and tell you where." I had no clue, and that's what I did. I drug him up, told him the
somewhere
street
between Arkansas and Louisiana.
Yeah, So.
Hey, Blue Grit Podcast. We're back this week. Your co-host Clint McNear
And Tyler Owen.
What's up?
Man, living the dream. Football season is here. Super excited in volleyball. Just sports, being a dad, and busy with work. What about you?
Same.
How was your drive down?
It was good. I left Forney at 5:30 this morning and slid in here about just in the. I followed the speed limit and got here at the appropriate time. Following the speed limit.
I will tell you this, that driving, in my opinion, I've had some road time before, but driving at that 4 to 8 o'clock where you can kind of see the world wake up. Of course, that was my favorite time on patrol anyway.
Oh, yeah.
That is, oh my God. And especially with the route you're coming, because you can really start seeing the hills right about Waco south. Well, Salado, I guess.
Sun's coming up.
Oh, it's great.
Not much traffic.
But you love Austin, so you love coming.
I love Austin. It's amazing.
It just kind of fits your personality.
I love the politics. I love it.
Yeah.
You're sick.
Yeah. Well, we have got a guest on today, Lon Craft, past president of Tmpa. You've got a lot of knowledge about this organization, but you've done some pretty cool things, and you're just a constant contributor to a lot of charities with Tmpa, and so we want to bring you on and talk about why that is, and really the mission behind it. So,
well, thank you very much for having me on. I appreciate it, and I love the podcast. I listen to it all the time, and especially on my morning walks. And I agree with you. My favorite time on patrol was when the city was waking up.
Yeah,
you get to a spot and you can see the city wake up, and it was pretty cool because it kind of sounds corny, but it was like they're waking up because we were here tonight, So we were on duty.
Well,
they're waking up and I'm headed home to go to bed.
That's it.
Yeah. I liked going, or at least going by the donut shops and just going by just getting little donut holes, because it was like the sugar rush that would last me until I got off shift, and then I would go crawl in bed.
No, we all piled up and had some Kentucky tea.
Kentucky. Oh yeah. Oh, that's right. You were the generation of the choir practice.
Yeah, we had choir practice every morning. So
You just confirmed for all of our non-cop listeners that cops eat donuts. You just locked that in.
See, I don't like donuts.
Sorry.
Yeah, it's on you.
Well, for our listeners or PMPA members that don't know, it amazes me really, and you can probably testify to this, Lon, that they're members of the association, but they don't really truly understand like the dynamics and how the board works and how the staff kind of intermingle. And man, the past presidents, I was talking to you actually one time. Some of these guys have served on the board for 12, 13, 14 years. And they're heavily involved, right, with the not day-to-day operations, but you guys meet quarterly and you guys set the guidelines of kind of where they want to see the organization go. And then our executive director, you give him essentially orders, and then we're supposed to follow those. And then when you're kind of a past president, you remain on the board 1 year, and then it's just kind of like, you're gone. And some go do things in life, and some remain a part of the association. But it's interesting to me because a lot of you guys, before we haven't had field reps, you and Jimmy De Los Santos would drive around, fill up your trucks, and go attract members before we even had employees. And so there's a lot to be said about that.
I drove to El Paso to meet one member from Baytown one time.
Wow.
When I was on the board.
Yeah.
And we signed him up.
Thankfully.
Kevin Lawrence showed up, and Kevin and I met with him. We had dinner, and I turned around and drove back to Baytown because I had to work a shift the next day.
Wow. Yep.
So, but yeah, when we were on the board, it's not like it is today. We didn't have the member. There was 8,000 members. The budget was less than $1 million, and we took turns at times coming up here and answering phones.
Yeah.
We didn't have field reps the way we did now, and so we went. People would call. Kevin would call and say, "Hey, can y'all go so and so and meet these people?" Okay, we'll go. That's what
cool.
we did.
That's cool. Well, we generally like to start off each podcast by kind of giving a background of where you grew up, and then how you got in law enforcement, and then what was your introduction to TMPA, and then kind of navigate through that path.
Who the hell's Lon?
Who the hell is Lon?
Where were you born?
I was born and raised in Orange, Texas.
Orange.
Yeah, it's on the border of Louisiana.
Is that where Jimmy Johnson's from?
He's from Port Arthur.
Okay. All
yeah.
right.
Y'all claim that?
Yeah. Bum Phillips and
That's
Wade
right.
were from Orange. They're my cousins and distant. And we grew up in a small town of Orange and spent a lot of time in Southwest Louisiana and Southeast Texas. I mean, we had the Sabine River was a great friend growing up. Yeah. We had a lot of fun. For some reason, I always wanted to be a cop. That's all I ever wanted to do was be a cop.
Even in like middle school, high school,
yeah.
you knew that?
Yeah, I knew it. I knew it from get. I mean, and it turns out that my fourth great grandfather was one of the first Texas Rangers.
Wow.
Absalom Jett was his name, and he grew up there in Orange, and his son was a town marshal, was killed in line of duty. And so it just seemed natural.
A lot of history there.
Yeah.
And so I grew up and I started my career in Orange County Sheriff's Department in 1986.
How old were you?
20.
Right out of, what'd you do after high school?
Well, I went to Sam Houston for a year. They still talk about that year. So I saw more of Texas than I did a classroom because I didn't really want to go. And
I think Charlie Robinson has a song about that.
Yeah, it fits.
Yeah.
But it was just something I always wanted to do. I went back home and went to work, and my dad would meet me at Walmart to buy the bullets for the gun I could legally carry, but I couldn't buy bullets for because I wasn't 21. And then I worked the streets for about 6 months before I went to the academy. We didn't have to. You didn't have to go to the academy right out of the bat.
That was still at the SO?
Yeah, at
wow.
the SO. And
didn't have to start in the jail back then?
No, I started in the jail, worked in jail for about a month, and then transferred out. And they gave me a penal code and a transportation code book. There were two different books at the time, and said, go and send no more, and we'll call you when we need you. And
read them books and go do something.
Yeah, and so I had
here's a gun.
I had a good friend of mine named Cliff Hargrave, and he was in the same boat, and we lived in an apartment complex behind each other. I had one, and so we worked totally opposite shifts. We worked those 12-hour shifts, and you worked 14 days a month. So you had that long time off, 7 days off. And,
sound like firemen.
Oh yeah, it was bad. And so I would ride with Cliff, or Cliff would ride with me, and we'd go through the book. We'd see a car, it's like something don't look right. We'd pull it over, and whoever was getting paid drove. Whoever wasn't rode in the past. And you go through the book, and you find something, you get out. If you didn't find something, you just told them to slow down or something, So.
Holy shit.
We didn't know,
Yeah.
We'd never been and so then I went to the academy at Lamar University. Gary Duncan was the academy director.
What year was that?
Guy. 1987, May of 87. And it was 480 hours. It was 480. They added 80 hours for PT. And Jimmy Singletary who I think he's still the chief at Beaumont now. He was the PT instructor.
Wow.
And we it was interesting.
Yeah,
so
I can imagine.
Well, I can remember being in there and they saying you can't do what? What do you mean you can't do that? We just did that last night, when we were working. So
I was just about to say it'd be weird going to the academy after you've already been working the streets.
Oh
for
yeah,
a while.
yeah.
Because like when we went through, they could have told me anything because I had zero.
Yeah.
I had nothing to compare it to. It'd be weird to work street and then go to the academy and them trying to tell you what.
Yeah. And thank God they changed the law to where you had to be 21. You had to go to the academy first. I mean, that was kind of stupid if you really think about it. But we had a good time. We made it. Looking back, it's like how
Yeah.
I don't know how we made it, but
How long were you at this? So
I was there until I got fired. The entire department got fired because the sheriff I worked for went to prison for making methamphetamines.
and you can't do that as a sheriff.
No, the federal government kind of frowned on that.
I get you.
It was like a 43 count indictment, and they found him guilty on 42 counts.
What'd that day look like?
Was he actually was up for re-election and went to a runoff. he almost won re-election while under federal indictment. It was crazy.
It is crazy.
I bet when you're hopped up, you can campaign like crazy, beating on doors and.
Yeah, well, no, I don't think he was getting a kickback from the dealers.
Oh,
so
gotcha.
if you didn't pay, then we'd run a search warrant on you. You know, it was amazing.
Did y'all suspect anything was going on?
No. I was the PIO at the time, and
the reason we broke this gentleman's knees.
Yeah. Well, I get this phone call from a reporter that said, "What would you say if I told you that the FBI and DEA were at jail in, I think it was Jasper County or Newton County?" So Mike Hosapple was the sheriff up there, so it was Newton County.
That is backwoods.
Yeah.
Backwoods.
Yeah, it must have been Newton County because there's no crime in Jasper County.
Yeah, and so he said, "What would you say if they're there interviewing a guy, and he's claiming that he was making meth for your sheriff?" I said, "I'll have to call you back."
Yeah.
I would love to see a young Lon Craft as a PIO.
Oh yeah, it was.
Can you imagine?
Oh yeah,
Is this a test?
Yeah. So I called the chief.
This was after the academy.
Time.
Like you were.
Oh yeah. This was 1987 or 88.
Oh, 2 years experience.
And
yeah, that's perfect.
so I actually had the law enforcement explorers were part of my job, and they were there when the phone rang. So I sent them home. I called the chief. We went to Newton County. As we're walking out, the agents were walking out, and they're like, "What are you doing here?" I said, "Well, what are you doing here?" And I'm thinking, "Oh my Lord, it's real." And that was the start of the nightmare.
Wow.
Damn.
The first time I ever testified in court was a federal grand jury in Beaumont, Texas.
Against your boss.
I was 22 years old. Yeah.
Golly.
That'll make you.
Yeah,
That'll make you a man right there.
Yeah, it was interesting. So
Wow.
then I went to Baytown and stayed there for a long time.
So the whole sworn at the SO got let go?
Everybody except for two, Harvey Barron and I can't think of the other guy's name, but Harvey was on like his fifth sheriff at the time. He was the only guy that did civil papers, and Harvey was a great guy. I liked him. And then they started, after it all settled, they started bringing people back. Well, I'd already gone to work at Baytown by that time. So.
Did you leave there and go straight to Baytown?
I did after it took about 9 months, to go through the process and all that. So
that's one thing for our listeners. It's changed now for I think for a number of reasons, probably technology and manpower. People are desperate for manpowers, but back in the day, it would take 7, 8, 9, 10 months to get hired on at a police department.
Oh, yeah.
Respectable.
Oh, yeah.
Police department.
Right. Yeah. Somebody said, "Well, what'd you do when you got out of the Marines?" I was like, "Well, I built pipe fences on ranches." And they're like, "Why?" I said, "Because it took like 9 or 10 months to get hired on at a PD."
Especially a civil service department, because you had to take the test, and then you had all the background, and then you had the interviews and all that.
Poly and that's weird. Nowadays, people are like trying to ramrod it through because they're so desperate for.
I wonder what the I guess average time is now. 3 months, you think, probably from start to finish?
I'm hearing some departments are super streamlining it, especially with lateral entry programs and all that stuff. But used to, like 9 or 10 months was the norm.
It was the norm.
It's crazy.
Yep.
Well, so you went to Baytown?
I went to Baytown.
Had a pretty good career there.
I retired as a sergeant.
You had a lot of narcotic experience, I hear.
I did.
Passive agents.
A bit different than your sheriff's narcotics experience.
Yeah. I was on the other side. I spent 3 years at the Harris County Organized Crime Narcotics Task Force, assigned there from Baytown, and that was a lot of fun. Got a lot of experience. Did a lot of stuff with DEA and got to do a lot of things. Yeah. So it was a lot of fun.
Baytown make you go back through an academy, or they accept your experience?
They accepted it.
Cool.
Didn't have to go. I had to go through an FTO to learn the city ordinances in the city. I remember my first night. I was on graveyards, and my FTO was a guy named Ken Terry. He's a good guy and a friend of mine, and we got separated in Old Baytown, and it was the state streets. And he's chasing one guy, I'm chasing another guy. They split, and I tackle mine, and he's calling me on the back channel. Back then we had 4 channels. You had 2 that were on repeater and then 2 that were car to car. And so he's calling me on the back channel, and he's like, "Where are you at?" I said, "Man, I have no idea. I'm gonna drag this guy to the street corner and read the street sign and tell you where." I had no clue, and that's what I did. I drug him up, told him the
somewhere
street
between Arkansas and Louisiana.
Yeah, So I was. That was my first night in Baytown. So
Working, I knew you had a lot of dope experience. Back then, was it CI stuff, or did you do a lot of UC stuff?
did a lot of UC when I was at the organized crime unit. We did a lot of UC stuff, and we worked both CIs and did the UC.
What'd you like better?
I like the UC stuff.
Did you?
Yeah, I like the challenge.
What's the stickiest situation you had as undercover?
We were doing a buy bust on a kilo, and my partner and I went into this apartment, and it was over off of Telephone Road in Houston, and we give the buy bust signal. I'm wearing a wire, and nothing happens. And so it's getting a little tense. They're like, "Why are you still here?" And so we're talking about anything we can think of, and finally the door kicks in, and here comes the cavalry. And I looked at him, I go like, "What the hell?" He said, Tim Pettigrew looked at me and he said, "Do you realize there's 9 buildings in this apartment complex and they all have a 4?"
Oh,
They kicked in 6 doors before they got to us.
process of elimination.
Yeah. See, it got a little intense.
I'm sure it did.
Yeah.
I'm sure it did. How long were you on that unit?
3 years.
3.
See, 92 to 95.
Okay.
1992 to 95.
So you've gone from Orange County, significant issues there, and then go to now Baytown,
Yeah.
which is now one of the best, the highest paid also.
Well,
across the Texas,
and that has Keith Daughtery was the president of the local. He later became chief, and then Mike took over, and then I was president of the local, and then Aaron Kroll came in, who is a Tmpa past president, and we changed the payroll. We got collective bargaining, and when I left Baytown in 2011, sergeants were making like 125.
Yeah, it is one of the most high.
Yeah.
But let's go back real quick about your involvement. How did you get intro to the Baytown? I think it's the Baytown Municipal Patrolmen's Association.
Yeah, BMPA. When we got there, it was run by the chief. And
The association was?
yeah,
Wow.
the president and the board was handpicked by the chief. And so
Wow.
me and a bunch of us, now it wasn't just me, there were several of us that we tried to form a new local, a separate local, and bring Tmpa in. Because I was the only Tmpa member at Orange County. They were members of the Paper Workers Union,
Right.
or something like that.
Yeah, that's right. I remember Kevin talking about
Yeah,
that.
I was
That's funny.
I was the only guy. I joined in '86 when I joined because I don't even know why. I got a flyer, or I saw a flyer or something. I'm like, well, this sounds good, so I did that.
Sounds better than the paper hangers.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so it was interesting. So when I got to Baytown, I rejoined because I had dropped after I got fired, and we tried to form our own association. With hindsight being, we should have just took over the original one,
Right.
which is what we ended up doing, because the union didn't last very long.
Right.
So, and then we voted them out, put in a new board. Mike Holden and Keith were the leaders of that, and then I became the president. And I was president for a long time, and while I was president here, when I was on the board here, I was still president of the local.
What prompted you to get involved with TMPA's politics, and what was there a need there? Somebody approached you about it?
No, actually, I got the magazine that used to get mailed out. I think it's emailed now, but it used to be mailed out. And I read an article. Kevin Lawrence was the Region 2 director at the time. That's how long ago it was. And I read an article he had written, and I said, I'm going to have his job one day. Seriously. I told my wife, I said, I'm going to be on this board. And my first conference was in San Angelo. And I think I missed one since because I got bit by a brown recluse spider and I couldn't walk. I was on the board then. So, yeah.
Wow. Well,
what year did you get on, become Region 2 director?
Be 2000. I think 2000.
Was that a contested race or anything, or
Yeah, actually, I never became the region director. I was an at-large.
That's right.
I got elected as an at-large in 2000.
Okay.
So, yeah, me and Wade Daniels won that year. So
Wade Daniels, Plano PD.
Plano PD.
So you were on the board for quite some time?
Yeah, I was on the board for a while. I was president. I got elected president in 07.
Okay.
And I was elected. I served 2 terms as president. And then,
which is rare for those that don't know.
Yeah,
it's weird. I thought like there was only 1 or 2, but when I got to looking back, there's been probably 6 or 7 2-term presidents.
Yeah, Jerome served 2. Well,
yeah,
Jerome was president for 2 years, and then I followed Jerome. Johnny Rod was, I think, 2 years. Yep. Johnny Rodriguez.
You, Thomas Brown, and Kevin Lawrence, I think.
Yeah, and I think. Yeah, I think so.
That's it.
Yeah.
So you served on the board as president, and obviously you kind of go into the role of past president. But just like I said before, some guys that were past presidents, again, they go on and live their life, and they're not that that's against anything. I mean,
Yeah.
you're more than welcome to stay involved. But you and some others really have stayed involved and seen, the not the turning point, but just see how Tmpa is also involved and improved over the last many years. What has really driven you, number one, stay involved, but be so supportive of the memorial and things that you identified or at least went through whenever you did serve on the board?
Well, the memorial is a big part for me because my great great grandfather's on the wall.
Yep.
His son's on the wall. I've had we had a Baytown officer, Bobby Paulk. He passed. He was killed in the line of duty. He's the only line of duty death in Baytown. He's on the wall.
Baytown only has one line of duty.
Only has one.
Wow, I would not have thought that.
Yeah. Only has one. Thankfully.
Wow.
And
and I don't mean that negatively, but
no,
Baytown's
rough.
Baytown's a busy city.
It was the Wild Wild West in the 90s.
Yeah.
We led the nation per capita in drive-by shootings in 92 and 93.
It's very much like Garland, like the way I kind of get the feel of it right there on the suburb, and it's just kind of always had that. It's a town full of grit.
Yep.
Well,
it reminds me of that.
And we had a huge influx of people from New Orleans.
Yeah.
After Katrina.
Yeah.
And there was lots of gang-related violence trying to establish turf, from the people that fled.
Yeah.
So, but, we've had agencies near us that have lost officers. I was there, I was at the search warrant when Pasadena lost an officer early. So it's just something that it's hard to talk about.
Yeah.
But it means a lot. I've had good friends that were canine officers, and I saw what the canines can do, and how they help and save.
And the dedication of the handlers.
The dedication of the handlers.
The time commitment.
And so when we talked about doing a canine memorial, and we spent 3 or 4 years talking about it, and there was no funding, and it just kind of really got under my skin that nobody seemed to really care or do anything. And so at that time, we were blessed to have the means, and so we donated $50,000 to the K-9 Memorial to have it built.
Incredible.
And we're still going through the process.
Yeah,
and one of the things I've always liked about you and loved about you is the fact that you after your presidency and you were past president, again, a lot of the board time that you had on there weren't many employees.
No, there weren't.
So, and to include a legislative team to be at the Capitol, and so you later worked for Tmpa as a legislative liaison. You were
That
at the
damn near
Capitol.
killed me.
Yeah, and so which is probably where you got your knowledge about no funding for the K-9, and you probably had a very better understanding of kind of how that works. And so I think you and several others worked to kind of lobby for that, and so it had been in the works for some time, thanks to you and some others' efforts.
It was, when I spent the time I spent 3 sessions working for Tmpa as the lobbyist, and I learned a lot. I learned how the thing worked, the process worked, and we passed some really good bills. We got the, Ashley Hardy came to me with COPS, Concerns of Police Survivors, and we passed that bill that increased the amount that they got and the fact that they could remarry.
Yeah.
And because for those that don't know, originally the state would take care of the surviving spouses of fallen law enforcement officers that were killed in the line of duty. But if they remarried, it all stopped. And it's like, why? Because most of them
penalized,
don't.
basically,
Yeah,
for
they get
moving
penalized, right. And so most of them don't. Some did, and we shouldn't penalize them for that. It just set wrong with me. And Representative Guerin carried that bill for us out of Fort Worth, and he got it passed, and we it was a good bill.
Yeah,
I was proud of that bill.
There's some bills you just look at and you're like, this just makes sense.
Yeah,
and that was one of them.
It just makes sense.
There was a time just to get field reps experience, to give him some support. They said, hey, if you want to go down to the Capitol, you go down and help. And so I called Lon. I'm like, hey, I'm going to come down every couple of weeks for a week at a time, or every other week or something. I said, what do I need to do? He's like, most important, wear comfortable shoes because we're going to walk a lot. And I'm like, whatever.
Yeah.
Holy crap.
Yeah.
I learned quickly, go buy some freaking shoes that I'm telling you, you can't imagine how much you freaking walk. And I'm following along behind him. Where are we going now? We got to go meet with the senator and talk about this. I'm like, and it would be all day. Then you go to dinners to try and continue meetings, or
that's what I was going to pick up on.
Yeah.
and that's when the real stuff happens.
Yep.
That's when it all happens.
You can get a chief of staff or a senator at dinner. That's when you actually have them, because during the day they're on the floor or they're so busy. But trying to chase this guy around for 14 hours a day, Jesus,
and
man.
he jokingly said that it almost killed him. And now, for those out there that are members or are not members or not associated with law enforcement, but I just wanted to process that we've all been at shift party, whether you're a cop or not, at some type of employment party where you've got this awkward relationship with a coworker, and the minute you and him or her open that beer, or break bread together, there's a sense of just instant, hey, there's relatability.
Yeah.
And so, but you had to do that 7 days a week, and you had to do it during the off season, during off session time. And so I can imagine, because you've got, how many state reps are there? 160?
Oh.
There's a lot. There's a lot.
A third of them are in Harris County.
Yeah. So you had to form those relationships and go out every night and have a whiskey drink, because that's probably majority of what some of them drink. So I can imagine. I'm sure it was.
And then when the session was over, I would call it my Texas tour. I would take a trip and meet everybody in their districts.
Right.
And that was. I put a lot of miles on a truck.
Yeah, I can imagine
those 6 years. So
Put a lot of miles on them legs too.
yeah, I would. I had 2 pair of boots I wore that were very comfortable, and I'd have them resoled twice during the session.
Wow.
Golly.
That's a lot.
Yeah, I wore the leather out.
That's a lot.
So
Well, I know that your passion and heart definitely is in the memorial, to include the K-9 Memorial, and hopefully one day we can all sit and watch that be constructed and sit on the beautiful Capitol grounds. But another passion of yours is to carry on the legacy of Tmpa charities.
Yes.
You've always maintained a good part in that.
We do the scholarships.
Yeah.
When we lost Dick Brock,
Yep.
he's a good friend of mine. And when I was Dick was also a past president of Tmpa. And when I was president, I would call Dick a lot and just bounce things off of him, and him and Bill Elkin and, they were my sounding board. And that's one of the reasons why Trey Morris and Jimmy De Los Santos and I and several others stay involved, is so we can be those sounding boards for the new generation of board members. And they do call and they do ask questions. And I love Bill Elkin to death, because I would call Bill and I would tell him I've got this thing. It's like when we tried to do the merger in 2008, and I called Bill and I said, "What do you think I should do?" And he said, "Well, what do you want? What are you thinking?" And I would just tell him everything, and he said, "Well, I think you've answered your question." And I'd hang up the phone and I'd go, "He didn't answer my question again. He made me he just had that talent to where you'd talk it out and he would just listen, and then, "Well, I think you found your answer."
You just wanted that support.
I just wanted to talk to somebody that had been there, that knew,
That's
that
cool.
had chewed some of the same dirt, so to speak.
That's an East Texas phrase for you.
Yeah,
You got
and
That's cool.
so that's what we want to do with the current board members. So when we lost Dick, my wife and I decided that we would create a $5,000 scholarship, the Dick Brock Memorial Scholarship, every year. And then, we were blessed with having the ability to do it. So we created a past president's $5,000 scholarship. So the goal is, for me, I want to continue giving that money to TMPA charities for the scholarships. So at some point, because currently what happens is I give $25,000 to the charities. TMPA matches the 25 for the scholarships, and we give like 22 or 23 scholarships every year. So what we got to talking about was, let's increase the amount that we give, and at some point with Katie's financial
Wizardry.
wizardry, yeah, she can invest that money and it grows to where TMPA Charities doesn't have to match. It's its own fund. It's self-funded, and we can use that $25,000 that TMPA Charities does to help some other officers that another way.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I would like to challenge all the locals to donate to the scholarship fund and grow it.
It's going to them. I mean,
it's for their kids.
Right.
And we have Bertha Roop is the chairman of the scholarship fund.
Former
committee.
Dallas County sheriffs, now Dallas County constables, I believe.
I think you're right. Yeah, Dallas County. I think she's been there for like 30 years, 37 years.
Bertha
like
was
that.
my DTO at Dallas County.
Really?
Dallas County Sheriff's Office. Yeah, she was my training officer there.
Well, she takes to heart on the scholarships, and there's 2 or 3 others that join us, and so it's a lot of work.
It is.
She has tried to. I think what we're going to do this year is meet before conference, and get those done, so the $5,000 scholarship winners can be invited to conference.
Yeah.
There'll be time to get them
Yeah.
there,
Yeah.
if possible.
Yeah.
And also, we may get some more volunteers to help, because they won't miss any training.
Yep.
That's the big thing.
And that's one of the things. You don't have to be a board member
No.
in order to be involved with the scholarships, the we've got TMPA's got, I think, 5 or 6 committees that you can volunteer for, and they're chosen by the president after conference, if I'm not mistaken. But you can be like on the scholarship committee, you can be on the legislative committee, you can be involved. So again, I recommend that if you guys are looking at getting more involved with TMPA on that level, man, the committees we have is a great way to do that.
Well, I would suggest actually coming to Ledge Day or being on the legislative committee so you can see how important, because I hear it all the time. Members will say, officers will say, why do I care what happens at Ledge? Well, everything that you have the power to do comes from the Pink Dome.
Yeah.
Everything.
And the other misnomer is, well, how come y'all didn't get that bill passed? Because all you do is file it.
Yeah, no.
You just file it.
Let me tell you something. When I started, Mario Martinez was one of my
legend.
He was one of my mentors, and he told me, he said, "Look, you can write all the bills you want to write." And he was impressed one day. I wrote a bill for Senator Whitmire on a napkin. I wrote it out, gave it to Whitmire's staff, and they sent it to Ledge Council, and they got it filed. It was on truancy because there was an incident where a valedictorian was arrested as she walked off after giving her speech because she had missed so many days as like a freshman.
Oh God!
Because she had a single mom, and she had to take care of the kids, that kind of thing, and
was valedictorian.
And she was valedictorian, so I think she made up for it, right?
So.
Yeah. And so he, to his credit, Senator Whitmire said, how can we fix that? I said, well, why don't you just write a bill that says if they're 16 years old or younger and there's a warrant for, truancy,
right,
when they turn 17, it's null and void. And it was funny because I'll never forget, he said, we can do that? I said, well,
yeah, you're the senator.
You can, I can't.
You can.
Yeah.
We well, what would that look like? So I wrote it out. Mario's like, you just wrote that out. I said, well,
on a napkin.
If you can, I tell people all the time, if you can write a search warrant, if you can write a probable cause affidavit, you can write a bill.
Yeah.
There's not much difference.
But that's the easy part. Writing it's the easy part. People don't understand.
Yeah. That's the easy part. So
the
Mario,
challenges and the legwork, and
Mario would always tell me, he said, you write a bill, it's going to take 3 sessions.
Yeah.
And that's why I was so impressed with the cops bill. We passed it in the first session.
wow.
It got passed the first session. The auto theft, the trailer theft bill I wrote for
Cargo
Grand
theft
Prairie,
bill.
that was passed in one session.
Wow.
So that
And there's bills we have filed the whole time I've been here 14 years, and like lead investigator bill.
the lead investigator bill, we got the closest we ever got in 13. That was the closest we ever got. It actually went to the floor and passed the House, and it died in the Senate.
But for our members, man, if you ever have a passion to come down and see how the sausage is made, it is shocking.
It's ugly.
It's shocking. Chasing him around for 14 hours a day was bad. Wrapping my tiny brain around, well, I thought you just file a bill and then it just gets passed.
No.
Learning, man, filing the bill's like
That's the easy part.
easy part.
So for the process, you file a bill, and then you have to have a sponsor. You have to have somebody that's willing to file the bill. So they carry the bill and they file it. It goes to committee. So then you got to lobby the committee to get it put on the chair to put it on the schedule for the committee. So it'll have a committee hearing. So then it has a hearing, and then you got to lobby the committee to vote it out of the committee. And then it goes to calendars.
Yep.
Well, calendars, that's a whole nother animal. You got to lobby calendars because it only takes one to red flag it, and that bill's dead. So you get it out of calendars, it goes to the floor. Then you got to lobby the entire House, or at least the majority of the House, to pass the bill. So it passes. Let's just say it passes the House. Well, then it starts all over in the Senate, and it goes to committee in the Senate. So then you got to lobby the committee. You get it passed out of the Senate. It goes to Senate calendars.
And what's shitty is that the whole time all that's going on, you may have another bill.
Oh, yeah,
that
yeah.
may take precedence, that may kill the one you were working on, and so the 2 months you've been working on bill one, you know that it's for the safety of, because we have bills that benefit law enforcement, and then you have bills that are priority for their safety.
Right.
And so you may have to kill bill one in order to pass bill two, and so it's just a challenge.
Well,
the whole process.
And then when it's on the floor,
Yeah.
they can add amendments.
Yeah.
And you may end up killing your own bill because of the amendments that were added.
Right.
That's when it gets sporty.
Yeah, that's when it gets really fun. And the closer it gets to Sunny Die,
We're done.
yeah, it's even worse. So what you do is you file you have a House sponsor and a Senate sponsor, and you push it at the same time.
Yeah.
In those 20 steps Lon just mentioned, it can die at any one of those steps.
Oh, yeah.
So you're nervous as a cat in a rocking chair factory the whole time because you're like, "Ooh, I finally got it past step one. Okay, now they're going to kill it step two. Oh crap! Now they're going to kill it step three." And
I was talking to JW. They were on the podcast a couple weeks ago, and now I don't know what state rep, what senator we can get on board with this, but I personally, me and Clint have had this conversation in depth. I would love to see some type of piece of legislation come out that sheriffs, judges, anybody in the criminal justice system cannot be party affiliated. The mayors aren't.
Yeah,
But we'll see what happens.
It'll never happen.
That's just Tyler Owen. I'm not speaking for Tmpa because we've got another legislative agenda that we need to get passed. But yeah, I'd like to see that happen. But we'll see.
Well, and the lieutenant governor was big on that for the judges at least.
Yeah.
At one point, I don't know where he stands now. I haven't had a conversation with him in several years, but yeah, it would be nice.
Yeah.
It's different, but the ledge session it's actually a sausage grinder.
Yep.
And it's ugly.
It is.
And part of the problem is a lot of people don't understand is the House can't take up any bills for like the first 100 days.
Right.
You know, they all they're doing is, you know, memorials and, you know, feel good stuff.
Right.
So the Senate does, and they send over a bunch. And then if you got a House member and a Senate member that get pissed off at each other, and then the House ain't going to pass any bills from this guy, so the Senate's not going to pass any bills from this guy, and if you've picked those people as your sponsors, you're screwed. Yep. You've lost your bills.
That sounds familiar.
Yeah, it does. I mean, it just, you know, it's a lot like being in middle school.
It is. It is. It's crazy.
Yep, or trying to date your ex-wife or something. It's a challenge.
Yeah,
it's touchy. I mean, it's sensitive. I didn't mean it snarky, but I mean, it's a delicate navigating those relationships because you make one guy mad that maybe it was going to help your bill, and it's another bill that he's not going to like.
Yep.
Then you're trying to measure. Well, I really need this guy, but now it's a really. Or you get a co-sponsor, and then you find out later he has another bill that's almost anti or not good for police. You can't kill his bill, then he's going to kill your bill. And
right. And they'll do that on purpose.
Oh yeah.
And then if your sponsor is out of favor with the speaker or the light gov, it ain't going to be heard.
Right. It's delicate.
You know, so it's a dance.
Yeah.
And
that's what I should have said. It's a delicate dance, not dating your ex-wife. I should have said
it's a delicate dance, and
I understand what you're saying.
Yeah, I mean, it just, you know, it is what it is. But
well, your service in the ledge is awesome, but the legacy you're leaving behind with the K-9 Memorial, the scholarships, remembering Dick Brock, the legacy that you're building outshines even the great ledge work you did, because that's something that 30 years from now, 40 years from now, when we're gone, that people are still going to remember, and still that's an incredible legacy to leave.
Thank you.
I'll say this too. I was able to go to a birthday party. We were going to do a podcast that ended up getting scraped because of the computer issue. But at your birthday party, was it your 60th?
No, it wasn't mine. It was It was Trey's.
That's right. It was Trey's.
Trey's birthday.
Retirement parties. What
It
it
was
was.
a retirement party.
Trey's
And
retirement
Lon's
party.
only 40.
Yeah,
not
I'm
his
sorry.
60th
I'm sorry.
birthday.
Yeah, I started when I was 12.
If looking back on it, I mean, you kept referring to many people as family, and I've only worked for Tmpa for 7 years, and I was telling Clint this the other day. It's like, the culture within the board and even field reps, it's shared by so many outside of that circle. But I mean, ultimately, a lot of your family was there. That's all Tmpa.
Yeah.
And I just remember driving back, going, man, it's cool to watch you involved, and it's cool to see you be able to lead those legacies. And so
I wish that podcast had survived, because it would be a legacy in itself.
Well,
There were 6 past presidents, and alcohol was involved.
yeah, and the computer kept crashing. And for those that don't know, early on in this podcast, when Clint and John kind of got it off the ground, thanks to past president Travis Hammond and that board, I was only able to do it on a laptop. And these cameras are high definition. It takes a lot of memory up. And so it hadn't been maintained properly by me, because I wasn't living in Austin at the time. And so, man, everything's got a lifetime on it, and that computer was on its last leg, and it just didn't make it. So
That hard drive couldn't handle the content.
No.
Well, there was going to be a lot of editing.
Yeah, but it was you, Jimmy De Los Santos, Mitch Slaymaker, Eddie Wilkerson,
Trey Morris,
James Babb. And
Babb was there.
I think that's it. But it was a good time.
It was a great conversation, and we talked about the history of TMPA and what each past president brought to the table, and what they remembered. What happened, and it was, like when Eddie got on the board. Eddie was on the board for like 15 years before he was secretary for a long time, and there was one point where the board members would take turns coming to Austin over on Huntland, the old office, and answer the phones, because we didn't have any employees. We didn't have payroll. We didn't have any money to pay payroll.
Wow.
So they would take turns coming over and answering the phones, and Kevin was handling all the legal, and driving all over the state, because
Right.
he didn't want to fly, because back then he was smoking, and he didn't, he wanted to drive.
That's why.
Yeah, that's why. And I remember, I was a young board member at large, and I left Baytown, drove to El Paso, and Kevin met me there. And Eddie and Jimmy went to Amarillo, and we used to go to the border or go down through the valley a lot. Jimmy and Eddie and I, we'd just get in the truck and go.
Well, we're planning in the next couple of weeks. We're gonna come out with our mission video with several of y'all there. We're gonna probably film it while we are all here in Austin, and hopefully we can get that pushed out to you guys. But I'm looking forward to it. It's gonna be a good time. It's gonna be a good time.
Yep. There's been some cool characters over the years, big personalities, fun personalities.
Like the president that did the rappelling off the hotel in Conroe.
Yep.
Oh my God.
And a jock strap and a cowboy hat.
I was a young kid when I got hired at Plano PD, and the first character I met was Billy Meeks.
Oh, Billy Meeks. Yeah.
There's been a lot of cool personalities, fun personalities, and great leadership through the years. We've been fortunate to have.
Yep. I agree. Well, I hope you studied for your 3-question test.
Okay.
At the end of the podcast. And you might be on the Clint side on one of them. We shall see.
Okay. What
is your favorite cop line or line from a cop? I'm sorry, I always screw this up. What's your favorite line from a cop movie or your favorite cop movie? What's your favorite cop car and your favorite drink of choice?
Well, the favorite cop car is easy. It was the '86 Crown Vic.
Yes.
We had to put sandbags in the trunk to keep it from swapping ends. It was so light in the back end.
When I heard your model, I was thinking it was going to be mine. But
Caprice. Yep.
No, I never liked the Shamu. We used to call those Shamus the Caprice. I never liked the Crown Vic. By far was the greatest cop car ever.
Workhorse.
He's talking about the big square one.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, with the chrome front grille.
That'd run about 160.
Yeah.
Yep.
And did from Orange Divider several times.
What's your favorite line from a cop movie or your favorite cop movie?
I think it was more of a TV show than a movie.
Okay.
It was Hill Street Blues.
Yeah.
Yep.
And it was the sergeant. He'd say, let's be careful out there.
Yeah.
And if I could tell anybody that's in this line of work, just be careful.
Yeah.
You know, look out for each other, because that's all you got is each other.
I agree.
And we are one big family.
Yep.
We may not get along, we may not like each other, but I mean, I had district partners that I didn't particularly care for, but I was the first one there when they hollered for help.
Yep.
You know, because if you let one fall, we all fall.
Yep. I agree. What is your favorite drink of choice?
Bourbon.
Yep.
You know, I'm a bourbon snob.
You are a bourbon snob.
I am. I have that is one of my vices is, you know, my wife went up to the man cave, which you've been in, and she said, "When did you get that?" And I'm like, "I don't remember."
I've had it. That's what they always say to us.
I don't remember.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
she goes, "But you have two, in case one runs out."
That's right.
If you could only have one bottle from now on that you had to sip on, you could only have one.
Well, that's easy. Old Fitzgerald. I love the Old Fitzgerald.
We broke one out that night.
Yeah, we did.
I've never had that.
Pretty good.
I've got two bottles at the house. Come on by. I'll pour you a drink.
I like
We'll,
that.
we'll sit on the porch, have some bourbon, and smoke a good cigar.
I still got a bottle of what you turned me on to at dinner one night, 1787 or 1897 or
1792.
yes.
Yeah.
I've got that. I've got a bottle of that right
That's
now.
good. Yeah. I just picked up a bottle of E.H. Taylor small batch the other day. So
If you want to get into bourbon and you don't like the real sweet stuff like I don't,
I don't.
get recommendations from Lon, because I hate the sweet bourbon and that's not what he drinks. And
No.
he's helped me find the good stuff. And
I tell you, Trey Morris just came back from the Bourbon Trail, and he brought me a bottle of Old Bardsdale. You can only get it in Kentucky,
Wow.
and it's amazing.
Yeah.
It's like caramel.
oof.
Yeah, I'm in.
Yeah, I just open it, put a straw in it. I'm good.
Yeah.
You know, it just I ration it because I won't. You know, unless I go to Kentucky, I won't get another one.
Yep.
Unless it's Angel's Envy.
Oh, no.
See, you know, I could take or leave Angels in.
Me too.
He can't do now.
I'm going to leave it. Yeah, I had a little incident with that one.
You know, it's okay.
Yeah.
It's
That's more than okay, Lon.
I think the best bourbon that I ever had was when I got a bottle of Pappy Van Winkle 12-year-old Lot B, and I would take that over any other bottle you could give me. It was a 12-year-old Lot B.
I'd like to try it. For our novice bourbon drinkers out there, Tyler strongly endorses, if you try Angel's Envy, to wear a pull-up.
Yes.
Sleep in a pull-up.
Yep.
If you try Angel's
For
Envy.
those that don't know, San Antonio Conference 2021, 22. I don't drink a lot of whiskey. In fact, I envy, no pun intended, you guys that can and do a lot. The only really hard drink that I would drink is peanut butter whiskey, which is nothing compared to some of the stuff that's out there. So one night, one of the board members handed me a shot of Angel's Envy. And before I could even listen to my wife yelling at me, no, screaming across the bar, I went ahead and took the shot. Again, it's different being an employee at a employee state association. On the employee side, we're not going to get just absolutely tore down. We encourage members to have a good time, but I'm not going to just get obliterated. And I wasn't. And it was time for me to go to bed. And so I woke up around 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning and was getting beaten. But my wife letting me know that I needed to go use the restroom. And I apparently was using the restroom in the bed.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
You didn't need to go.
No.
You no longer needed to go.
Yeah.
So, it was a rather eventful night.
Gives
And
a
so-
whole new meaning to sleeping in a wet spot.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Gosh, well, I just aired out my dirty laundry, and so we're going to roll with that. I may go get some Angel's Envy after this to cook
Well,
with it.
And a bag of pull-ups.
Yeah,
yeah.
a bag of pull-ups.
There you go.
Well, man, I can't thank you enough for coming on.
Thanks for having
It's been
me.
a great episode. I can't thank you enough for everything you do for Tmpa, so I really appreciate it.
It's family.
That's right.
I mean, my whole goal is to show the new board members and the current board members that the past presidents aren't here. We're here for them. We're here as a sounding board. We're here for support, whatever they need. But I hope that when their turn comes, they're there for the other guys.
Yep. No, it's a good way to think.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's what I hope.
Well, and I appreciate what you said earlier. It's family, and sometimes we all jive really well together, and sometimes we disagree. Sometimes we butt heads, but at the end of the day, we're all family.
At the
And
end
the
of the
one
day,
thing I always remember, it's all because we're passionate about cops, protecting cops, fighting for cops. And so I'm good with it.
like Glenn Rozier used to always say, I love each and every one of you, and there's not a thing you can do about it.
Yeah.
You know,
That's a good
I
note
miss
to
that
end on.
man.
Yeah.
He was
He's
a
a
good
legend.
man.
I do too. Well, this about wraps it up. You guys take care. Stay cool. We are in the summer months of summer. This is hot as hell right now in Texas, and so hopefully the area that you live in is going to be a little bit cooler as we move forward. Take care. Stay safe. God bless you, and as always, may God bless Texas.
Texas.